So bhakti is basically to cultivate love for God. Our problem is how to cultivate for love for something which we don't see. How to cultivate love for something which we don't know anything about. That is the problem. As Sri Ramakrishna, how did he approach the truth? How did he cultivate devotion for Divine Mother? I don't know anything about you, O Mother, but I know that you exist. How he has come to such a conclusion? Because there is this creation which I see with my five senses. I know that no human being has done this. So I assume, I suppose that you have created this. I don't know your real nature. So you reveal thyself to me. And then a little faith actually. Reason and faith both actually invoked. You just see. Reason to the extent that actually there must be a creator for this creation. That creator he called as the mother of the universe. And then faith. He used both reason and faith. And then he started off his journey. Started off his spiritual quest. Sorry. So then he got the result in the end, right? Divine Mother appeared before him. So all these sages, all these saints, all these incarnations, messengers of God, divinely inspired souls come before us and show us the path to cultivate devotion for God. The highest thing that we can aim for, the highest thing that we can attain in life. After attaining which you don't feel like attaining anything more in life, there's nothing more to attain also. Yam labdva cha aparam labam na manyate adhikam tataha. Having got which, you won't see anything higher than that. That is this devotion, and that is this union with the divine. You know, the Maharashtra say in Shoka Mela, I think some time back we have discussed these stories, but the stories of these devotees are so exceptional. They don't stick to our mind that quickly. You have to hear, you have to read again and again, again and again. So there is no other way to cultivate devotion for God except listening to the story of his devotees. By constantly listening to the stories of the Lord's devotees, a little devotion will be kindled in our heart over a period of time, not immediately. It will take time for devotion to get kindled in our heart, but that is the only way. So this Shoka Mela, he was born in a Mahar community. The low caste community, the untouchable community. The 16th century saint born in Maharashtra. He was such a great devotee of Panduranga. Such a great devotee. He would constantly chant the name of the Lord. Financially very poor, but he never bothered. He never let that poverty come in the way of his cultivating devotion for God. He wanted to have the darshan of Vittala, but the Brahmin priest would not allow him. You're untouchable, you can't enter into the temple. So he would go there, but he would be denied entry. He would come back home, weeping, and he would express his anguish to his wife Saira. She would console him. What does it matter? When the Lord wills, it will happen. But he had such an intense desire to have the darshan of the Lord in the temple that he could not bear after some time. One day he came and expressed his anguish to his wife, as usual, and he did not take food. He did not take food, and he was weeping and weeping and weeping. When will I have the darshan of the Lord? Why such distinctions? Why people are so narrow-minded? What wrong have I committed? Have I cheated anybody? So just to be born in this caste itself is a curse. So he was lamenting and bemoaning his fate. to his wife, and she was consoling him. He did not take food and he just went to bed. At that time, he was weeping and weeping. The Lord appeared at his doorstep. The Lord appeared at his doorstep, and they both were surprised, the couple. So we read it as a legend, but for them actually it was just as tangible experience as we experience anything from this world. Just as I experienced this microphone, they experienced, they saw, and they conversed with God like that. So Lord actually escorted him. You come to a temple. He held his hand, and then he took him to the temple. Not just to the temple, he took him into the sanctum sanctorum, Garbhagudi we call. Locks, the door was kept closed only. It was locked from outside because the key would be with the priest. So the Lord took him inside the sanctum sanctorum. And then he asked the Lord, what are the 3 things that are required to attain moksha? The Lord said, whoever repeats my name constantly, the first qualification to attain to mukti in this Kali Yuga, one must repeat God's name as often as possible. In the beginning, actually, we can't repeat incessantly. Japa, he says. When you do japa also, God's mantra you have taken up. In the beginning, actually, we have to force our mind to repeat that japa to make japa happen in. After some time, there will come a stage, and you will reach such a stage that even when you are asleep, the repetition of God's name will happen unconsciously in your mind. You have to reach that point. 24 hours it would be happening, whether you're conscious or you're unconscious. It will just happen. But for that, actually, a lot of effort is required. It will happen in the end. For that, you need to cultivate love for God. So, first thing, actually, you have to repeat God's name. The second thing is, you should be a good-natured human being, good conduct. You should be kind and compassionate to all beings. You should not hurt, you should not do any kind of violence. And the third thing is, you should keep the company of God's devotees, which is called satsang. The people who want to talk about God, who want to listen about God all the time, and you have to keep the company of such people. What happens if you come in the company of such people? Because you are constantly listening to the excellences of the Lord in the presence of such devotees. The devotees would not like to hear much about the worldly stuff. And by staying in the company of such devotees, the people who are interested in God, people who are interested in cultivating love for God, slowly devotion will be kindled in your heart too. The satsang, the Lord says 3 things. First, you have to repeat God's name. Second, you should cultivate morality, good conduct you must have. You must be a good human being. And the third is satsang. You must keep the company of good people. People who are interested to listen about God, to talk about God, who are interested in truth basically, who are interested in mukti or liberation. Slowly, the devotion will be kindled in your heart. So that's what the Lord said. So he and his devotee were having a wonderful conversation. Now actually the day broke. The priest opened the door. He was taken aback to see this forbidden man in sanctum sanctorum. How come this man found his way into the sanctum sanctorum? See, he should have applied his sense. The door was locked from outside, but now he found him in the sanctum sanctorum. He thought actually he came that last night itself somehow. Before anybody could spot him, see him, he might have hid behind the image of the Lord, and so whole night he was there in the sanctum sanctorum. Priest must have thought that he stealthily entered in the temple. He did not enter stealthily. Lord actually escorted him to the sanctum sanctorum. So, then the priest thought actually, if you allow him like this every day, God would bring him here, or he would stealthily enter into the sanctum sanctorum. So we need to punish him. He has crossed his boundaries. He has crossed his limitations. He has defiled the temple. So, an untouchable person has entered the sanctum sanctorum, Garbhagruha. In the 16th century, the society was very much, rigid with regard to caste. So this idea that I am superior to somebody else has nothing to do with religion. Most of the times we attribute this untouchability and caste system to religion, but it has nothing to do with religion or spirituality. It is just a sense of superiority complex, we say, no? The natural tendency of the majority of the human beings is to grow at the expense of others. When you say that I am superior to somebody, not that you are really superior. By saying that the other person is inferior, you want to become superior. If you are really superior to others, others will recognize you. Only through character excellence you can become superior to others. But a genuine individual, an individual who has such character excellence, who is highly moral, who has honesty and integrity, practices righteousness and truthfulness, that individual will never cultivate any kind of ego. He will look upon all with the equal eye. He will not have any sense of superiority. Even individuals who are morally weak, he will look upon them with the same eye. They are also struggling. Tomorrow they will become just like me. Today they may have less strength than me, but we are all actually made in the image of the same Lord. So they will never look down upon somebody because somebody else is morally inferior to them. Nowadays, if you see in society a few people who practice morality and honesty, immediately they consider themselves very superior morally to others. That sense of superiority complex is also wrong. It will bar you from God. It will not allow you to reach God. So this has nothing to do with spirituality and religion. Somehow groups of people of mostly, upper caste, we have appropriated this sense of superiority, saying that we wanted to grow at the expense of others. You are inferior, you are inferior. That means I am superior. So it has nothing to do with spirituality because Lord is dwelling in the heart of every being and every creature, not just in human beings. He is there even in an ant. That's what our scriptures say. Where he is not, in every creature he is there, in every atom he is there. Then how can you make a distinction between person and person? You can't even make a distinction between animal and man, because an animal also the same principle, divine principle is working. It's just the form is different, that's all. You have a human form, animal has another form. The same Lord is actually expressing through that body also, through that form also. All forms are his forms, in fact. So a true devotee will respect and revere even subhuman species, animals also. He will not look upon them as animals, but as another form of God, another expression of the divine. He will hold them with the greatest reverence. So the Lord was conversing with his devotee, the day broke, and then the priest decided that he must be punished. How did they punish Chokamela? They asked him, you can't live on this side of the river, Chandrabhaga. You just stay on the other side of the river. That is the punishment they have given him. So in those days you cannot oppose, right? So Chokamela, without any protest, murmur of protest, he repaired himself to the other side of the river Chandrabhaga. On the bank of Chandrabhaga only the Pandharpur is located. There he built a small hut and he was living with his wife Saira. One day he was having his food under the tree outside his hut. Lord Vittala went there to join him in lunch. So they were having the lunch, Vittala, Chokamela, and his wife Saira was serving both Vittala and Chokamela. And she, Saira, when he was serving the Lord Vittala, inadvertently, the vessel that she was carrying, vessel of curd, fell down and a little curds fell on the clothes of Vittala. And then this Chokamela became angry. How dare you serve the Lord? So inadvertently, you ought to be cautious. He shouted at her. At the same time, the priest of the temple, Pandharpur temple, happened to pass by. But there he could not see Vittala. But these two people were seeing the Vittala and serving the Vittala. He said, this man has insulted him. He's saying, how dare you do that? Because you have banished him to the other side of the river, he's asking me, actually he's insulting me. He thought. He went near Chokamela, he slapped him on his cheek. And then, because he has touched the untouchable now, he went to take a bath in the Bhima river, Chandrabhaga river, and then he left the place. In the evening when he opened the temple, he saw tears in the Lord's eyes. Tears were rolling down his cheeks, and one side of his cheek was swollen. It became reddish and swollen. He didn't understand what happened. Then he understood because he slapped Shokamela. The Lord in the temple was weeping for his act of sacrilege. Then he brought it to the notice of other priests and said that this is what happened. I slapped him on his cheek. My fingers actually surfaced here on the cheek of the Lord, and the Lord's cheek has become red and swollen now. And what is to be done now? So he went to Shokamela. He fell prostrate before him, and he told what has happened. And he escorted him to the temple. They brought him to the temple, and Shokamela saw this. This is so nice. Then he prayed to the Lord. So please, deign to show thy compassion on us. Please deign to show thy smiling face to us. We can't bear to see this weeping face of you, Lord. And then Lord gave the previous appearance to all of them, because the devotee prayed. So what is required? What is devotion? Pure love for God. He is already dwelling in your heart. We have to cultivate that. The caste, your economic status, your educational status, your gender, nothing matters. Everything else is secondary. He doesn't see anything of this. Nothing he will see. If you have pure love for him. If he really wanted, he would have made him a billionaire, the Shokamela. But he knew that his devotees would be self-fulfilled by that devotion itself. They won't seek wealth. If they seek, he gives. In no time he can make them billionaire, but he won't do that. Because it's of no use. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what are we seeking for? We just want peace and happiness and immortality. The peace and happiness and immortality is conferred on you already because you have attained to the highest devotion for God. What more? You are self-fulfilled. Im labdvacha aparam labham na manyate adhikam tataha. That is the thing to be attained. That is the thing to be sought after. It is possible for every one of us to attain to that highest state of divine wisdom or divine experience. But we don't know what for we have come into this world. We don't know the value of this human instrument. The Lord Panduranga Vittala said to Shokamela, he said, you are not an untouchable. The people who don't seek me, having got a human birth, they are all untouchables, he said. If that definition of the Lord, if we apply, we understand who is an untouchable and who is a real, a pure human being. Whoever actually doesn't seek God, actually doesn't seek me is an untouchable, the Lord says. Not a devotee like you. So the Lord doesn't make any distinction between individual and individual. If you have love for Him in your heart, if you cultivate it, you'll become VIP for Him. A few months back, actually, we had this talk here, God's VIP. That talk actually discussed about Kuchela, how he became God's VIP. You can become the Lord's VIP. People of the mundane world may not consider you VIP, but you have so much of love for God in your heart. You will become so dear to the Creator of the universe, the Lord of the universe. Here you continue your life as an ordinary human being, but only gods know and the Supreme Lord know the value of you and your being. Right? Your fellow human beings, they may not value the love that you have for God in your heart. Only you know that, and God knows that. Nobody else can know it. Your immediate family members also may not be able to know. They cannot, unless they are also spiritually evolved like you. They also will not be able to recognize you. But it doesn't matter, right? The Lord knows. Vijayasthi, Kuchela. He was so poor, but he never bothered. He never considered his poverty, as a hindrance, a stumbling block to cultivate devotion for Krishna. He was self-fulfilled. He doesn't have 2 square meals per day. The children were actually starving. Unable to see the children starving, one day, with great trepidation, his wife approaches him. What she says, your childhood friend Krishna is now in Dwaraka. He is Lakshmipati. He is the husband of Goddess Lakshmi. Approach him, go to him, and he will give you some riches. I am not able to see the children suffering hunger like this. And she was a lot hesitant before approaching him. Because he is, after all, the head of the family. It is his responsibility to provide for his children. He could have thought on that. Whatever actual chance would bring him, It all happens by the prarabdha. Okay, what kind of material life we need to live here. Just hand-to-mouth existence kind of existence. He was leading along with his family. For him, it was perfectly all right in that kind of life, because he was self-fulfilled, full of love and devotion for God. So now, because the wife told, he thought, not to ask for money. It's long before I saw the Lord. So she reminded me, okay, let me go. So many years since we have left our Guru's hermitage. No, he and Krishna, they were co-disciples. Sandipani's ashrama. So you reminded me, anyway, I will go. So when you want to go, when you want to see a great man, whenever you go to a great man, it's custom. It is there even also, people practice it now, that you can't go with empty hands. You must give some present or some offering. But what offering he will give? He doesn't have anything to eat. So what offering he will give? So his pious wife went to the neighbors' houses and collected little flattened rice. There was no bag in the family to put that flattened rice in that bag and give it to her husband. So she tied it up a little, that flattened rice, to a corner of his own uttariya. That was also torn uttariya. And then he advises him, Tamupaihi Mahabhaga Sadhunam cha Parayanam. A great one, approach him. He is a Sadhunam cha Parayanam. He is a supreme refuge of all spiritual seekers, sadhus, devotees. You go to him. So taking this little flattened rice, the Kuchela starts off. Reach Dwaraka. He was just thinking, my appearance, what kind of appearance I have. Will the Lord, will the gods there in the palace, will they allow me to enter into the palace of the Lord? Will I be able to see my Krishna? He was meditating on Krishna, thinking about Krishna. And what would be my fate if they don't allow me to see Krishna? So there are different stories, apart from the story that we get in the Bhagavata. There are many legends in the north about Kuchela. How did he go there? And some say that it's not there in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So he just, on his way, he got exhausted, he became tired, and then he went to take a nap under the tree. So he has just slept off. And then he woke up, then he saw himself in front of the palace of Krishna in Dwaraka. So it's not there in Srimad Bhagavatam, but the legend has it. Many legends are there around that story. You are free as a devotee, you can have any number of legends. But what matters is whether he has gone ultimately and how he won the grace of the Lord. So he went and told gods, then he said, I am Krishna's childhood friend. Please go and tell the Lord that I have come. Please give me entry, I just want to see my childhood friend. And they looked at his appearance. You are Krishna's childhood friend? You are Krishna's childhood friend. They could not believe themselves. But still they went. The Lord was with Rukmini, Mother Rukmini. Private moments, right? In the inner chambers, the God was hesitant to go or not. Is it proper on my part to disturb the Lord at this point of time? But this poor man has come and is standing at the entry, door. So, with great trepidation, the God actually approaches the Lord and says, Oh Lord, a person by name Sridhama has come, and he says he is your childhood friend. As soon as the Lord heard his name, Sridhama, he got up from the cot, Sahasottaya. Immediately he got up, he did not wait. But just to confirm, he asked the God, who came? Your name? What name you uttered? He said, Sridhama. And he heard second time, the Lord came running to receive him. And then he embraced him with great love of receiving him. The VIP was received. Such VIP treatment the Lord had given him, and the people around they were all completely surprised. And what is this appearance of this man? You just look at him. Tam vilokhya achyuta durat priya paryankam astitaha Sahasottaya cha abhyatya dorbhyam paryagruhit mrudha. So the Lord actually embraced him with great joy. Over how many years you have come? Seeing the childhood friend, he was so happy, the Lord was so delighted. And then what he did? He made him sit on the cot on which he was sitting along with Rukmini mother. And then he asked her to bring the plate and other arghya and padya. He squatted on the floor and started worshipping him, his feet. He washed his feet and he took a little water. That water with which he washed his feet, he sprinkled on his head, the Lord. And there, Upahrutya avanijyasya padau padavane janihi agruhit sirasa rajan bhagavalu lokapavanaha. So Krishna is the Lokapavana. He sanctifies the three worlds. The Lord sanctifies the three worlds. But that Lord, what he did? He washed the feet of Kuchela and then took that water and thought that how much the Lord respects his devotees. And these people saw, the people around were really surprised. What is this? We never saw a man like this. What greatness is there? If you look at him from outside, he is so poor. What greatness is there? They could not find any greatness in him, absolutely, from his external appearance. But Lord knows actually the greatness of his devotee, because he is full of love for Krishna, full of love for the Lord. Kuchelam malinam kshamam vijam dhamani santatam Devi pariyacharat sakshat chamaravyajane vai antah purajano društva krishnena malakirtina vismito bhut atipritya avadhutam sabhajitam. Kuchelam is vastra, the garment I was wearing actually, was so dirty. Malinam. Dhamani santatam. He was so thin. You can see his veins. The veins have surfaced like that. Devi Paryacharat Sakshat. Mother Rukmini was weaving the fan for him. When Krishna was worshipping his feet, she thought this man is not an ordinary man, because when he became worthy of worship by my husband, definitely, because she was Pativrata, Sahadharmacharini, whatever the husband feels a dharma, so she assists in dharma. So she didn't ask him, why are you doing all this? She understood that this man is not an ordinary man. And so she helped him in worshipping him, because she was weaving that Vinjamara fan. Devi Paryacharat Sakshat Chamara Vyajanena vai. The people who are looking at this scene, the other women who are present in the palace, other gods, surprised totally. Antah purajano društva krishnena malakirtina vismito abhut. They were surprised. What greatness is there in this man? Now Triloka Guruna. He became worthy of worship by the Triloka Guru, the Guru of the three worlds. They could not understand, they could not gauge at all. Then they say that Kimanena krutam punyam avadhutena bhikshuna sriyahinena lokesmin garhitena dhamena cha. How we treat people in the world who are poor, sriyahinena. Somebody who doesn't have any money is poor. We look down upon such individuals, right? They are not respected. We want to become rich because of that. We want to be respected by the society. Poor people, they don't have respect. We don't respect them much. They are not achievers in life. They may be having basic necessities of life, but still, Our respect of the individuals today in society is purely based on his or her economic status and his or her material possessions. But anyway, we can't look into the hearts of the individuals, definitely. We can only see the external. But here is the Lord is worshipping that poor man. From external appearance, they couldn't make out why the Lord is worshipping. Then they are saying, Kimanena krutam punyam avadhutena bhikshuna. What merit he must have acquired in his previous birth. Because this birth is nothing. You can see from his appearance. He has nothing, he is very poor. His appearance shows that he has not achieved anything great in life. But he must have done some great penance in his previous birth. He must have acquired a lot of merit. And that's why the Lord is worshipping. So there must be some reason. What punya or what merit he must have acquired through his actions, through his previous embodiment in his previous existence, that today actually this poor man is being worshipped by the Lord. And then they say, you also Triloka Guruna Srinivasena Sambrutha. Srinivasa is actually worshipping him. He is honoring him. And then they say, the Paryankastam Striyam Hitva Parishchakto Agrajo Yatha. So generally we consider actually for husband actually wife is very dear, for wife husband is very dear. And now actually the Lord was sitting with Mother Rukmini, the divine consort. And he didn't bother to inform even her. Simply got up and came and made him sit on the spot. And he was sitting on the ground, squatting. And who will give that kind of respect? And as the Lord said actually to Ambarisha, last class also we discussed, he said, Naham atmanam ashase madbhaktaihi sadhubhi vina sriyam cha atyantikim brahman. A great sloka in Srimad Bhagavatam. I don't respect myself as much as I respect my devotees. I don't respect my divine consort also as much as I respect my devotees, the Lord said. Who can give that kind of love? Is it possible? Can we expect that kind of love from any human being, whatever you may give? Only it is possible with the Lord. And you can win his grace, you can make him your slave with devotion. So devotion is not an ordinary thing. Again, there are no pitfalls in the path of devotion. The path of yoga is not that easy. The morning I had a function, this year actually they're celebrating the 150th birth anniversary of Sri Aurobindo, a great yogi. He struggled and struggled and struggled. All his inner struggle actually portrayed in some of his writings. How difficult it is to subdue the mind, to conquer the mind. How many pitfalls on the way. How many ambushes. Every turn there is an ambush, he said. So eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. There is a saying in English. If you really want to conquer mind, you need to be so alert. We don't know. Anytime the conqueror will become the conquered. The pursuer will become the pursued. You want to conquer Maya, and Maya will conquer you. That will happen. When you see actually so many people falling down from the spiritual path, why do you think that will happen? It's not easy, definitely. If it is easy, everybody will come to the path of yoga, right? To conquer the mind is the greatest challenge. But you must accept the challenge. But the easiest way to conquer the mind, to sublimate the lower passions, to sublimate the lower impulses, to purify our inner instrument and attain to the supreme beatitude is devotion. Devotion offers you the scope. There is no scope for fall here. Because gradually, step by step, actually, you will go up the ladder. But yoga, path of yoga, the jnana marga, karma marga, you have to be on your guard always. You have to be very alert. There you will not get any support because it's a purusha prayatna actually. You have to endeavor with your own strength. You have to struggle on your own strength. The bhakti is not like that. Anybody can cultivate and very simple and easy in that way. So in the beginning actually when you repeat God's name, you may have to do it mechanically for some time. People say that Swamiji, I am not getting any taste. So it happens with every sadhaka. But you persist with your sadhana. Slowly you will develop taste. And actually you will relish it more and more afterwards. And in the end you will get this nectar. The nectar of raw bhakti, the supreme devotion for God. Once you attain that, you know what it is. It cannot be described in words. Only that individual will know. So, when Krishna worshipped him like that, Then they had beautiful conversation. They reminisced about their childhood days with the Guru, Sandipani. And after having the conversation, the Lord entertained him with a nice feast. And afterwards, the Lord had asked him, actually, what have you brought for me? Because he saw in the corner of the cloth that flattened rice. But Kuchela was hesitating to give that little thing. It was a small thing. It was Dwarakadhisha. His wife said, actually, where is your Lord? In the beginning he said, Aste adhuna dwaravatyam bhoja vrishni andakeshwaraha. That Krishna actually now is the Lord of Bhoja Andaka. Yadus is the Yadupati, Yadunampati. Dwarakadhisha is the king of Dwaraka. So you go to him, he is so kind, that Lord, and is so generous. Smarataha pada kamalam atmanam api yachyati kimnu artha kaman bhajato natyabhishtan jagadguruhu. His wife says before sending Kuchela to Sri Krishna, Smarataha pada kamalam atmanam api yachyati. If you remember, every day if you remember his feet, you remember his lotus feet, he submits himself. Atmanam api yachyati. So what to speak of this richest material wealth? If you ask him, you don't have to ask, he will give. If you ask him, actually, he will give them very gladly. If a devotee asks, the Lord will be more than happy. But generally, the true devotees, they won't ask. It's not necessary. So you know how much to give. As far as my material stand of life is concerned, you know, Lord, actually, where to put. It will happen according to Prarabdha. I am happy with this. You are contented totally. They will not seek, because money, if you seek, Lord will give, but also the trouble that comes with it. Money will bring some trouble or not? It doesn't bring any trouble, right? No, it will bring a lot of trouble. You don't know. You go and ask a rich man, he will tell you. It will bring a lot of trouble. You have to read the Vairagya Prakarana in Yoga Vasishtha. If you want to know what an evil wealth is, if you really want to know, okay, Rama says to Vasishtha, how much of evil it brings. It makes a man hard-hearted, he says. For cultivating devotion for God, you need to be very soft in your heart. You need to be very tender. But you're rich if you have a lot of wealth. There are exceptions, definitely. I'm not generalizing. But in general, I mean, since the majority of the people, what happens is this. Because it kills all your tender feelings. It makes you very hard-hearted over a period of time. So for cultivating devotion, you need to be very soft. Your heart will become very tender when you cultivate devotion for God. So wealth definitely actually is a serious hindrance. For spirituality, definitely it's a hindrance. If your basic necessities of life are not satisfied, okay, then you strive and struggle. But you just see the world today, there are any number of people who have enough for the rest of life, but still they are struggling for more and more and more, because they don't know the importance of this piece of life. The best thing that you can achieve with this instrument, the God-given gift, this human birth, and birth in India, the spiritual land, where you have scriptures like Yoga Vasishtha, Srimad Bhagavatam, Upanishads. How many devotional scriptures we have? How many scriptures of highest wisdom we have? One life is not sufficient to exhaust them all. But if you read even one book sincerely with Shraddha and with faith and diligence, it kindles greatest devotion in your heart. Jnana, Yoga Vasishtha, you read the path of knowledge that will take you to the ultimate destination. The book is so powerful. The book of highest wisdom, conversation between Rama and Vasishtha. So now Lord is asking his devotee, Kuchela, what have you brought for me? Kimupayana manita brahman me bhavata gruhat. So he asks actually, Anuvapi apahrutam bhaktaihi premna bhuri eva me bhavet. So even if it is a small thing, even if it is a trifle, if it is given with love and given by my devotees, I consider it as a great gift, a great present. Bhuri api abhaktopahrutam name toshaya kalpate. You may give a golden diadem to the Lord, but you don't have devotion in the heart. He doesn't consider it as a great gift. There only in the Bhagavatam, this The sloka is there in Bhagavad Gita also it is there. The Lord says, Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktipahrutam ashnami prayetatmanaha. Patram, one small leaf is sufficient. But if you offer it with devotion, is there any difficulty in offering a leaf to the Lord? Palam, pushpam, fruit, flower, toyam, little water. Whole thing is His, the whole universe is His. These commonly available things, sufficient, but you must offer with devotion, with true sense of surrender and with true humility when you offer. I consider it as a great present and great gift from my devotee. So now, Kuchela wants to ask for money, but he is not able to ask. He totally forgot because now he saw his Lord, his childhood friend, and he became totally happy and fulfilled. He totally forgot. But the Lord actually, He knows actually what for He has come. Sarvabhuta Atmadrup Sakshatasya Karanam Vijnaya Achintayat Nayam Sri Kamo Ma Bhajat Pura. Sarvabhuta Atmadrup. Who is the Lord? Lord is there as dwelling in every creature as Atman, right? What is that He cannot know? He knows everything. Every thought of us actually, the Lord knows. Sarvabhuta Atmadrup. Sakshat tasya agamana karanam vijnaya. Because He did not tell what for He has come. He did not tell the Lord, I have come for money, please give me some riches, some money, wealth. He couldn't ask. So, the Lord actually is, because He is the indwelling spirit in every being, He understood for what He has come. Vijnaya chintayan nayam srikamo ma bhajat pura. Desiring wealth, He never worshipped me before. He never worshipped me with the intention of acquiring wealth or intention of seeking anything, material prosperity kind of thing. And then He says, the Lord says, Patnya Prativrataya Stu Sakha Priyachikirshaya Prapto Mamasya Dasyami Sampado Amadhya Dullabhaha. Today He is in front of me, Patnyaha, Pativrataya, Sakha, because his wife wanted some money. Priyachikirshaya, to satisfy her sweet desire. Priyachikirshaya, Sakhya, friend, wife. Prapto Mamasya, he has come to me. Dasyami Sampado Amatya Dullabham. I will give him such riches, which will be envy of gods. The Lord decides now. Though he has not opened his mouth, he has not asked for any money from the Lord. The Lord actually decided. He has come here seeking wealth, so let me give wealth. What kind of wealth? The wealth that will be the envy of gods. That he has decided to give. But he did not ask. Then he was hesitating actually to give that flattened rice to Krishna. Dwarakadesha, the king, what is this present? What is this gift? Though the Lord says, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam, it doesn't matter what you give, but if you give it with devotion, I consider it as buri. I consider it as a great present. And then actually he himself snatches it from him. And then he says, Nanvetadupanitam me paramapreenanam sakhe tarpayanti angamam vishvam ete prutukatandula. What you have brought is very dear to me. Nanvetadupanitam me paramapreenanam sakhe. Whether the Lord really actually is fond of flattened rice or not, but he told his devotee, I like flattened rice very much. You have brought what I really like. And then he says, what you have brought actually is not just sufficient to satisfy me, but it can satisfy the whole universe. Tarpayanti angamam vishwam ete prutukatandulaha. What little present you have brought is not just sufficient to satisfy me and also to satisfy the whole universe, to satisfy the whole of my creation. And then he took one fistful of it and he relished it. And he was about to take the second fistful. What happened? The mother Rukmini stops Krishna. Enough. Etavatalam Vishwatman. This much is sufficient. This much is sufficient. One fistful you have taken from him. That is enough. You don't take more. Why did she prevent him? Asmil lokhi atava amushmin pumsaha tattosha karanam. So whatever he... So because you have taken one fistful of Katandula, flattened rice, brought by your dear devotee, all his material wants here and in the next world got fulfilled. She did not allow him to take the second fistful. If the Lord had taken the second fistful, he would have become the slave of Kuchela and he would have gone along with Kuchela to that place. He would have left Dwarka. She knew that, that's why she saved her husband from becoming the slave of a devotee and did not allow, because he came for riches. Enough. Etavatalam Vishwatman, the soul of the universe, O Lord, this much is sufficient. She did not allow him. So the Kuchela was going back because he could not ask. And then he was thinking to himself, I could not ask for money. And the Lord also did not ask me, what for you have come? He also did not ask me, what for you have come? Do you have any desire? Do you want any help from me? No such question he asked. Okay, then he is saying actually, Adhanoyam dhanam prapya madhyanuchaihi namam smaret. Probably the Lord might have thought, Adhanoyam, because I don't have money. Suppose if you give money, madhyanuchaihi namam smaret. So pride might develop in me and then I might forget the Lord. So out of compassion for me, probably he has not given the riches. Thought, Adhanoyam dhanam prapya madhyanuchaihi namam smaret. God might have thought like that. Who knows? If you give him wealth, he might forget me, thinking that he might not have given any wealth for me. Good. He was happy. He was happy that he had not given anything. I did not ask anything on my own. Happy. Probably the Lord might have thought like that. And he says beautifully, Aho Brahmanya Devasya Drushtha Brahmanyata Maya. I have heard that the Lord is Brahmanya Deva. Brahmanya Deva means whoever seeks God, whoever seeks Brahman, whoever cultivates love for him, he becomes the devotee of that devotee. Brahmanya Devasya Brahmanyatha. I have heard all these days, but now today I have seen, I have witnessed how much the Lord loves his devotee. Brahmanya Devasya Brahmanyata Drushtha Maya Eri Daritra Thamo Lakshmim Aslishto Bibrato Rasi. I am a poor man and he has embraced me with his chest. So when you embrace, what happens? Your chest will touch the chest of the person whom you embrace, right? And where is actually the Mother Lakshmi resides? In the chest of the Lord. Bibrato Rasi. Lakshmi Maslishto Bibrato Rasi. Today he has embraced me and he has touched me with that chest, which is the residence of Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of prosperity. So he was just thinking that you just see my good fortune. I was more than happy. He says, where am I? Poham daridraha pa papiyan. I'm a papi. I'm a sinful human being. I'm poor. Poverty leads to sin, right? Most of the times. Most of the times poverty leads to sin because when your basic necessities of life are not satisfied, you will take to sinful way of living. Stealing and all the other things, lying, all these things happen sometimes, because of poverty only. Kvaham daridraha. But though actually he was not a sinful human being, he was a very morally established person, highly established man, but still, Poham Daridraha Papiyan, Pa Krishna Sriniketana. Where is Krishna? Sriniketana. The abode of Sri, the abode of Lakshmi. Brahma Bandhuriti Smaham Bahubhyam Parirambitaha. As if, actually, the knower of Brahman, he embraced me. And so, with this kind of thoughts, actually, he was coming back his home. And then he says, whatever you want to achieve, whether in this world or the next world, or if you want to achieve mukti, Swarga apavargayo rasayam bhuvi sampadam. Then Patala you want to attain something, Swarga you want to attain something, in this earth you want to attain something. Sarvasam api siddhanam, whatever you want to achieve in life, Moolam, Tatcharanarchanam. If you worship the feet of the Lord, you will have this world and next world, heaven, and also beyond, that mukti. Everything he will give, But a true devotee, as I said, doesn't seek wealth from the Lord, because he gives as much as we need. If he gives more than that, what we have, so it definitely brings some trouble also. Then we will have to bear that. But we compare ourselves with others. We want to be, on par with our neighbor. So we have this craving for more and more. And because we don't know the importance of this instrument, right? We want to be accepted by the society. Society recognizes only certain things. Society doesn't care for the kind of love and compassion or devotion of Lord that you have. Most of the times, the people around misunderstand you. But that should not deter you from cultivating devotion for Lord. You should not try to be accepted by the society. Okay? In the beginning, definitely you will have persecution, sometimes misunderstanding, maybe from the immediate family members, but that should not deter you, I say. For when you pass through all these hurdles, all these tests, in the end you will have the divine vision, and Lord will embrace you just as He has embraced Kuchela. And thereafter there is nothing to achieve. Yam labdva cha param labham manyate nadikam tataha. The whole universe will become yours, just as actually the whole universe belongs to the Lord, because you have become one with the Lord, one with the divine. That scope and that possibility is there for every one of us. The India is a spiritual land, a blessed land in that way. But this wealth of devotion for the Lord, we don't consider it as wealth. This is the problem. Cultivate true devotion for God. The only way. It's not easy to get human birth. Having got such a precious gift from the Lord, what percentage of what part of our life, how much of time actually we devote for that higher pursuit? Do we really lack time? Okay, no. Only thing is, it's not the goal as yet, right? That's not the objective for us, most of us. To cultivate devotion for God is not the objective. If you have that as the objective, then you will read books like Bhagavatam, you will read the stories of devotees. You just keep reading like that. Don't say that, Swamiji, I am repeating God's name, but I don't really relish it. You will relish after some time. Lord will come and make your heart His abode very soon, if you read the stories of the devotees. Shall we try for that? See, don't underestimate a book like Srimad Bhagavatam. Good number of stories are there, stories of the devotees of the Lord. You be in touch with those stories, in this birth itself, you will have spiritual awakening. Some awakening will happen before you die. You will taste it. At least you will get a glimmer of the truth, for sure. And these books are so powerful and such potency is there. But you have to make good use of that. It's called Rushi Runa. We have to clear the debt that we owe to our Rishis. They are given such a wealth to us, such a precious gift to us in the form of this knowledge. And we are indebted to them, and we have to clear that debt. How you clear that? By reading these books. Every day, just 10-15 minutes at least, if you don't have time. If you're too busy with other things and too preoccupied with things mundane, at least 15-20 minutes you can devote. Your life will become blessed, I say. In the beginning, just you have to force the mind, because the mind is full of, worldly ambitions, worldly desires, and worldly samskaras. It will resist, but afterwards, when it develops a taste, the mind will naturally flow towards that. So this possibility we all have. Let us pray to the Lord Krishna, that He might shower His choicest blessings upon all of us, and He might make all of us His devotees. Let us stop here for today. We shall meditate for 1 minute before we disperse.